There are just some things in podcasting that remain confusing no matter how long you have been researching how to start your own podcast. And a podcast RSS feed and the jargon and the technical terms can be one of those such things. But no more. Today on the Podcast Accelerator, I'm going to demystify in simple, non-jargon terms exactly what a podcast RSS feed is and exactly how and why it works. This, of course, is the Podcast Accelerator. I'm your host, Mark Asquith, CEO and co-founder of Rebel Base Media, where we make podcasting technology, of course, including Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host, where we generate thousands and thousands of RSS feeds for podcasts every single day. Go and check out Captivate if you're not already using it for your hosting. Maybe you're using one of the other hosting platforms to distribute your show to Apple and Spotify. And maybe you're thinking, do you know what? I kind of wish the service was just a little bit more personal and the platform was a little easier to use. Well, Captivate has your back if that is the case. So please go and check it out for free. You can try it for free at Captivate.fm. Now, before we dig in to RSS feeds, I just want to give a shout out to AWeber. What I do for you here on the Podcast Accelerator with podcasting, aka making your life easier, giving you insights, giving you straight talking information about podcasting, AWeber does for the world of email marketing. So I use AWeber for all my email marketing needs, whether that's promoting the Q&A sessions in our Facebook groups, live for podcasters, whether that is helping people to be welcomed to podcast websites, our managed WordPress platform. It doesn't matter what it is. Anytime that I need to communicate to people on a one-to-one level, I use AWeber for my email marketing. So please, you can do the same. Go and check them out for 30 days free. They've also got a pile of resources to help podcasters generate their own fantastic email marketing at markasquith.com/AWeber. So podcasting is getting easier in air quotes. That's right, in air quotes. Podcasting is getting easier, but there will always be questions. And one that comes up time and time again for new podcasters is about what exactly an RSS feed does. So here is a simple, no jargon explanation, okay? Your podcast host, whether that's Captivate or another host, let's assume you're using Captivate. What happens is Captivate will generate something called an RSS feed, RSS, which stands for really simple syndication, okay? But really, what I want you to do is think about this RSS feed like a box. And that box is full of goodies. It's full of episodes. It's full of files. It's full of audio and pictures and information about other episodes and various other things to do with your podcast. Now, the way that this works is that when you build your podcast, when you create your podcast on something like Captivate, you set up the information about your podcast in your show settings. So what you do is you upload a nice cover art, you upload a title, and you say, okay, this is called the Podcast Accelerator. You upload a description, you type a description in to Captivate show settings or your other host's show settings. And what that does is it builds a label alongside categories. So you put your categories in there. So you might say, all right, the Podcast Accelerator is a technology podcast. And then category number 2 is it's an education podcast. And category number 3 is it's a hobby podcast. So you pick your categories. And what that does is the show settings essentially act like a label that is stuck to the outside of the box. And anyone looking at the box can say, oh, right, what's in there is information about podcasting, straight talking news and reactions. It's called the Podcast Accelerator. That's the picture for it. Oh, and that's what categories it lives in. So this is a box of information. And when you change your show settings, that information gets labeled. Okay, so it sticks a label on the box of information. Now, inside the box is, imagine you open up a cardboard box, a big cardboard box. And inside that box, you have little compartments. And each compartment is an episode, okay? And inside that episode, you've, of course, got information about the episode. So you open up one compartment and you say, oh, that's episode 1. And it's got a title. And it's got a picture associated with it. It's got an MP3 file associated with it and some show notes and some other things like information about whether it's explicit or not, and information about what episode number it is and the time that it was published and the date that it was published, and whether it's a bonus or a trailer or a normal episode. And that information is relevant to that one episode. So every time you create a new episode of your podcast, what you do is you essentially open up the box, your RSS feed, and when you click publish, what happens is another compartment is created inside the RSS feed, inside that box of information that basically says, here's an episode and here's all the information associated with that. Okay? So imagine you've got 100 episodes inside your podcast. You've published 100 episodes, okay? What you end up with, the RSS feed, is basically, here's a box of content. And when you look at the box of content, when you look at the RSS feed, you get information about the box. What's in the box? Well, it's information on podcasting. This is the title of the podcast. This is the description of the podcast. This is the picture of the podcast. This is when it comes out. This is the categories that it lives in. This is all the information you need about the show. And that's sort of stuck to the outside of this box. And then, to recap, when you open up the box, inside that box, you've got containers, little compartments for each episode, and each episode has its own information inside it. So you open up one of the little compartments, and inside the compartment is an episode which has got its own picture, its own MP3 file, its own title, its own release date, its own release time, its own explicit setting, and so on and so forth. Now, that's what an RSS feed is. So Captivate, or your podcast host, if you don't use Captivate yet, Captivate will generate that RSS feed, and that is delivered via a URL. So my RSS feed URL is feeds, feeds.captivate.fm/podcast accelerator. That's the location of the RSS feed. That's the location of the box. So that's like going into a storage room, walking into a big storage unit, and needing to get from the reception person the location of that box. Hey, can you just tell me where that box lives? Yeah, of course I can. It's at feeds.captivate.fm/podcast accelerator. Cool, thank you. And when I go to that location, I get information on the box, which is the feed information, the title of the show, the cover art of the show, the description of the show. And then when I open the box up, I get all of the different episodes in different compartments with information inside there about where the MP3 file lives, what the episode title is, what the episode show notes are, the episode number, and so on and so forth. So that's what an RSS feed is. And then what you do, you basically tell Apple Podcasts, so in Captivate, you go to your distribution area, or in your other host, if they have a simple distribution area like Captivate does, go to your Captivate distribution area, and you can submit that to Apple. So basically, let's use Apple as the example. Everywhere else is the same, but we'll use Apple as the example. What we do is, when we launch our podcast, we just have to tell them where our box is. And we just tell them once. Because what they do is, we say to them, hey, that location that I got from the reception, you know that location, feeds.captivate.fm/podcast accelerator. Apple, here, look, there's a new podcast that lives at this location. I want you to go and look at it and get all of the contents, all the compartments inside that, and put them into your search listings. Okay? And then I want you to get the settings that I've put on the box, on the RSS feed, the title of the episodes, the title of the podcast, the description of the podcast, the cover art, and I want you to wrap that around all my episodes. So when someone searches for an episode, they can see in Apple Podcasts that it's part of the Podcast Accelerator show. So Apple looks at that location and says, here's a new box of content. This is great stuff. I'm going to display that in my shop window inside the search results. Okay? And then you are done. You don't need to then tell Apple when you put new stuff in that box. So when you publish an episode, you just click publish on Captivate, and Apple says, hey, listen, guys, I found a new container inside this box. This is great. It looks like a new episode because I can see that it's got a title and some show notes and a location for an MP3 file. Yeah, this is a new episode, guys. I'm going to send it to everyone that subscribes. And in a day or two, I'll have updated my shop window. Apple will have updated their shop window, their search results, the directory with this new episode as well, because they take a little bit of time. It's like getting a new box of goodies in at your store, your actual physical store. You know, if someone knows the box is there through subscription, they get the stuff instantly, but maybe it takes a little while for the shopkeeper to go around and update the window dressings with this new stuff. That's what Apple's doing every single time you publish a new episode, okay? Because they know about your box of content, they know about your RSS feed, they've been told about it by you once, and they're monitoring that, and they're waiting for a new piece of content, a new compartment, a new mini box inside the box, a new episode to be published. And then they say, this is great, this is definitely a new episode. I'm going to tell everyone that's subscribed about it instantly. And within a day or two, will have gone round as the shopkeeper and will have updated the search results and will have just updated the shop window with your new content, okay? So that's what an RSS feed is. It's a box of content, and every episode in that box is a compartment, a container for the information around that episode. Okay, it's nice and simple. And what a podcast hosting platform does, Captivate.fm being one of them, what we do at Captivate is all we do is we give you the ability to create the box, give you the ability to fill the box with content and measure how many times people open the box and take out a compartment, aka how many times your episodes are downloaded. Okay, that's what a podcast host does, and that is what an RSS feed. Now, it's very, very it's very, very complex for people that are new to podcasting to understand what this is, because there's absolutely no reason on earth that you should be interested in RSS feeds. It's very, very boring, but it's a delivery mechanism, all right? It's a box of stuff, a box of content that you then, via us at Captivate, give to Apple Podcasts, give to Spotify, give to Google, give to TuneIn, give to wherever else, Stitcher. And they just look in the box and say, right, brilliant stuff, thank you. Now I know what this is. And every time you publish a new episode, I'll take that new episode and stick it in my shop window for you. And I'll give it to the people that are already subscribed very instantly. Okay? So that's what an RSS feed is. If you need a hand with that, if you need any information on that, please let me know. I'm always very, very happy to help. If you're a Captivate user, a podcast websites user, an Academy user, podcastsuccessacademy.com user, go and just let us know via support if you need a hand with this. If you're not a user of one of those platforms, well, you probably should be. But if you're not, hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Asquith and we can talk over anything that you want. But that is RSS Feeds 101. What is a podcast RSS feed? Well, now you know. Now you know, okay? Pass it on. Tell a friend. Now, I hope you're staying safe. Please do. Please look after each other. Look after yourself. And just make sure you are completely staying safe during these bizarre times. And until the next time, thank you for joining me. And never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.